And if you had $25,000, what would you do with it? Well, my next guest says sometimes the simplest advice is the soundest. Jonathan Eriksen, Managing Director at EriksensGlobal, joins me now. And Jonathan, you think potentially just bank it?
Yes, at the moment, cash is king, we think. So it's easy to say, well, let's put it in the markets and they may go up or they may go down. But at the moment, there's more chance of them going down than up. And that's simply because of the uncertainty that you've just been announcing. Every time President Trump tweets, somebody has to take it seriously and think about it and decide what to do. So although business confidence is still pretty high in the States, and the markets have been going up beautifully in the last couple of months, we think it's almost inevitable that at some point they're going to go down again. And so we'd rather suggest that you leave the money in the bank for now and wait till a better buying opportunity.
So if you're taking that more cautious, I guess, modest approach, what else can you do other than just keep money in, earning some interest? Should you have some liquidity as well? What are you suggesting?
Well, yes, in that sense, it depends on your time horizon. But for most people, a short-term deposit gives you a reasonable rate of return around about the same before tax as the rate of inflation. And I suppose that's partly why we think it's better to leave the money in the bank. Inflation isn't beaten, but the RBA yesterday, for example, kept the cash rate on hold, much to the surprise of the markets. And they're just being careful and conservative the way we are.
Yeah, and you are in New Zealand, Jonathan. We do have an RBNZ rate decision soon. What are we expecting there?
Them to hold as well. But we expected that all along, whereas a lot of people did think the RBA would cut because they were slow to put rates up and they've been slower coming down. But in the same way as the Federal Reserve has been reluctant to cut rates, the RBA is too, because being basically a commodity economy, what happens in the markets really matters. And it's difficult to predict what the rate of imported inflation are going to be and what your currency is going to do with all these tariffs and things, not to mention the actual physical wars as well as the trade wars and potential trade wars going on.
I wanted to ask you something else as well, because in financial markets, there's often a lot of ups and downs, Jonathan, and we know that it can also impact people's health, their mental health in particular. You lost a colleague to suicide in 1987, and you're very much now focusing in on how to manage money, but also manage your mental health.
Yes, because I think stress, and there's a lot of stress around trying to give financial advice and to manage money. Stress does tend to affect your judgment, and too much stress is definitely bad for your health. So what we try and do is encourage people to think much more about the big picture and a long-term time horizon. So we encourage people to get out for walks, appreciate the natural surroundings if you have any. I mean, if you're stuck at a big city block in the middle of winter, then there's not a lot of sunshine coming down. But there's lots of parks around Sydney, for example, and you can always get down and catch a ferry out to Manly or something. So there's always ways you can connect with the wider world and perhaps just think more about how to relax occasionally and how to enjoy life rather than just the stresses and strains of trying to manage to make another dollar.
Absolutely, because money doesn't really mean much if you don't have your health, does it, Jonathan?
Well, in actual fact, if you don't have money and you're sick, it's very hard to stay alive. If you've actually got some cash in the bank, then you can actually pay for private medical health rather than wait for the public system.